me, a lot of these most successful fast bowlers of the game, weren't tearaway. Some of them were sharp, some of them had good pace, but it's never been a case where majority of tearaway fast bowlers have been the most successful players in any era.
Yeah.
So for me, especially playing against some pretty good opposition on some pretty placid wickets, you need to develop skill. And that's just all I've ever really worked on, my personal skills and making sure that I have a game that could withstand any conditions and any player in any conditions. So I just try to really focus in on building pressure. Accuracy for me is a massive thing in any form of cricket. And I think the great Glenn McGrath would always say if you bowl 21 dot balls, he's guaranteed a wicket. And it's just simple as that. Once you build pressure, things will happen. And he's a guy that you can really model my bowling action or my bowling style, off. Somebody like Curly Amos, who was very, very, very stingy. He gave nothing away. And these guys really strive on accuracy and building pressure. And that's probably arguably they're regarded as probably two of the greats of the game.
Right, and also as far as your batting is concerned, you do one of the hardest jobs in the business, batting with the tail and mopping up some runs in the lower order. How challenging has that been, and what have you specifically worked on to get better at what you do?
Look, I think most of the times where you're faced with those scenarios, the context of the game is already painted for you. There's not much to think about. It's more so you just focusing on the actual delivery after delivery. I think a lot of times people get consumed by the situation and the scenario, but when you're in those situations, when you're quote unquote under pressure, it's clear you need to find a partnership. You need to rally yourself out of it. You need to mix aggression with defense and just build a partnership generally. So I think it's pretty clear. I don't go in the nets and per se put myself into those scenarios. I just go in the nets to particularly work on a few things. Maybe my footwork. I'm a big advocate of getting into good positions. So when I go into the net or leave a net, I want to know that I'm leaving the net in a good frame of mind, saying to myself, well, look, I've gone into really good positions. I'm striking the ball where you want to strike the ball. And there are ways to gauge that. You could go to play a cover drive and it hits the inner portion of the bat, and then you could ask yourself why it happened. Maybe you went at it a little too early. There are different things to critique the actual technique at that particular stage, but generally I think it's all mainly to do a lot with the mind. So it's a strong mental game. And I think once I've got that mindset where I'm building my brain for war, building myself a challenge, then no matter what challenge I'm faced with, I'll be able to cope with it. But I think simple things when I go into the net, I just really simplify it and look to get myself into good positions. And I know once I get myself into good positions, then my head is in a good position, and the head leads the other components of the body. And then once my head is in a good position, then I have better judgment whether I want to play or whether I want to leave it. And to me, it's easy to gauge once you understand what you're doing.
Right. There have been a couple of viewer questions coming in. One from Srigandan Raja and the other from Ambrish. Both of them have a rather similar question. You have had a completely different experience in a totally different neck of the woods, which was in Chennai for the IPL. How has CSK helped you as a player and as a leader? Can you also share one thing that you took from the CSK environment to your approach as a player and as a captain?
My experience in the IPL has been, wonderful, especially in Chennai. Chennai was my first franchise, and then I had the opportunity to play for Sunrisers Hyderabad and also the Kolkata Knight Riders. But my first stint was with Chennai, and it gave me an opportunity, and not so much looking at it from a playing angle, but I had the opportunity to mingle with international stars, upcoming Indian stars, current Indian stars. And it was just a great environment to be in to learn. And I was young. I was 21 years old when I played for Chennai. And to learn in that environment for me was beautiful, because you had so many resources in the dressing room to pull on. You had MS Dhoni, you had Dwayne Bravo, You had Suresh Raina. You had Ravindra Jadeja. Then you had Mike Hussey. You know,
Yep.
MS Dhoni. Just a few people to call on. And being put in that environment, it's hard not to learn. You know, it's hard not to learn. Even it's hard not to learn from the negative things that you may have seen or picked up, because I mean we're all never perfect. There's no perfect system. There's no perfect person. So
True.
there are flaws and you learn from them. But there's so many different positive things in that environment to pick up. You know, some of just the work ethic. And I always go back to Mike Hussey and that. I mean, there were a lot of times where Mike Hussey ran the fielding sessions for us. You know, and we had a fielding coach in Steve Rickson, who was excellent.
Right.
And Hussey was basically the crash dummy, for lack of a better phrase. And he's the guy who really, really pushed us in our practice. And one of the things we would always do is try to make sure the intensity is up in the practice, because once that intensity is there, then it's easy to transcend into a game. And Huss gave some very good pointers as to how he anticipates, particularly. At that stage, he was basically at the back end of his career. He was getting older. He wasn't as quick as he used to be. So one of his greatest assets as a good fielder was anticipation. He just basically pinpointed subtle things such as a batsman's bat lift, if a batsman is shaping to play a ball in one particular side. So he knows whether he's anticipating to go left or anticipating to go right, forward or back. It doesn't matter, just based on how he's seeing the batsman set up. And little things like that are just great. And it was really good to see Steve Rickson let Mike basically run it, because sometimes we get caught up from a player's perspective that, you know, coaches only keep saying things and keep highlighting things, but they're never actually, some of them are never actually capable of actually demonstrating it. But then for a player to put his hand up and not only put his hand up in practice to run us through it, but you can see in the games, he basically practiced what he preaches. You know, he goes into the game and does the same exact thing. It's a lot more comforting for you as a player to take in, because this guy has basically shown us that he can do it. You know, and not only telling us here in practice or in practice that he can do it in practice, but he transcends that into the game and he delivers.
Also, you seem to have forged some wonderful friendships off the field as well during your Chennai Super Kings stint. A couple of guys who just cannot stop raving about you are Vijay Shankar and Baba Prasit. Those two guys have the nicest things to say about you. They also do fondly recollect your visits to their homes. So could you talk us through some of the friendships that you have forged during the IPL, and how do you manage to nurture them these days?
Look, every team that I've been into, I have found myself getting closer to some Indian players. You know, when I went to Chennai, Baba Prasit was there, didn't play a game. Vijay Shankar was there, didn't play. I don't think Vijay played.
Yeah, he didn't. Except for one game.
I know. Probably played one game, but they didn't play much. And that was my first time going to India as well. So I wanted to experience Indian culture, see what the country is all about. And these guys were very welcoming. You know, Vijay took me to his home with Baba Prasit as well. Baba brought his twin brother into the as well too. And you know, we all got along really, really well. I remember the last tour I had to India last year. We went to Chennai, and that was actually the first time I've been back to Chennai since that year. I think it was 2013. And I caught up with Indrajit, who was injured at that time and now coming back from injury. He had surgery, and we went for dinner. You know, so it's just these relationships you build over the years, and you just see the genuine kind-heartedness of these players. And you know, these are guys that I would always remember, and these are guys that I will always be really, really good with because of our experiences together. You know, we look for one another's interests. You know, I always pay close attention to the first-class cricket in India just to see what these guys are doing. You know, how well they're doing, or if they're not getting any runs. You know, when they do well, you know, I send them messages, you know, and say, "Well done, well played." And for me, that's just friendship. You know, that's just friendship that you've built over the years, and people who you could see the genuineness within them. For me, I think genuine people, and I've been blessed with that personality to tell the difference between someone who's genuine, probably someone who's not. So, yeah, I mean, those are two that I got close to at Chennai. When I went to Sunrisers, I spent a fair bit of time with KL Rahul, and KL Rahul was now basically dubbed as the upcoming star. You just need that opportunity. So we spent some time together at Sunrisers. And then in KKR, I spent a little bit of time with Kuldeep Yadav as well. Kuldeep was he wasn't in the Indian team as yet, but everybody knew that he was the wicket taker. So Kuldeep was another guy who we spend a little bit of time around in KKR as well, just to name a few. But there are many guys. I remember Venugopal Rao. We were very close at the Raiders as well. And I met up with him the last time I went down to India, and I think he's into cricket administration as well too. So it's really good to see those guys progress.
Commentary as well these days.
Commentary as well, yeah. So it's good to see those guys doing that. Irfan Pathan, remember I met up with him in Mumbai. He's saying he's into a bit of commentary as well too, a little bit of coaching. So he's now basically stopped playing as well too. So you build these relationships with players over the years, and it's still good to see that. You get that respect and that love from them, because whenever you see them, you greet them. And they're always willing to go for dinner, always willing to maybe have a drink, sit down, chat and catch up, because you've built that relationship up with them over the years.
You clearly seem like the types who likes to, soak in different cultures. And you spoke about being fascinated by the Indian culture, by the Indian way of life. What are the parallels that you see in the Indian lifestyle from the lifestyle that Bhajans like you lead back home? What are the parallels and the differences that you come across?
Oh, there are many differences culturally, man. The Indian culture is a lot more family oriented. So, for instance, a lot of Indian families tend to stick together, living in the same household for a number of years. Whereas in the Caribbean, now we tend to break away from the household a lot earlier, as early as we possibly can. Even small things as though like the Indian culture, so a lot of them eat with the hands. We use not even forks, but that's just they're with eating. The cuisines are obviously different. Religions are obviously different as well too. With the Indian, a lot of Hindus in India and a lot of Christians, whereas in the Caribbean. So there are a lot of different variables that come up. But I don't think it separates us as human beings. Human beings as one, but there's these small subtle things that
Can you hear me, Jason?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, now I can, Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I say just these subtle things that differentiated in cultures, but not necessarily in human beings.
That's very nicely put, and that also explains why you're such a big hit with people from different parts of the globe. But also just listening to you speak, Jason, it does become a lot clearer that you're one of the more articulate cricketers around. Do you also spend a lot of time reading different kind of material, stuff that's outside of sport as well?
Reading, to be honest, I read a lot of like news. I wouldn't say I sit back and read books per se. I do, however, would see a lot of videos, spend a fair bit of time sometimes on YouTube, and there are a number of different social media platforms that you could pick up a lot of valuable information on. And there's so many different WhatsApp groups and so many different WhatsApp things that broadcast and media that's sent around. That is always learning to be had. There's always learning to take place in these different small forms. So, I just try to grasp as much knowledge as I possibly can. If it's something that interests me, then I would probably divulge a little bit deeper into it. But for me, I try to surround myself with some positive people and people who I know could benefit my development. There's a saying that said that you are who you hang around with. And I tend to try to surround myself with positive people who I feel as though I'm comfortable being around, one, but two, I can also learn from, and grow my personality a lot more, because life is very, very precious, but we don't know how long we're going to be on this earth for. So
Yeah.
you always look down the road. I'm a firm believer sometimes of planning for down the road, and when I say plan for down the road, I don't mean live in the future. I like to live in the present, but just know that I have something to fall back on when you get a little bit older. And to me, knowledge is power, man. You could always gain knowledge from anywhere, even people who are younger than you, people who are older than you, different races, different cultures, different ethnic backgrounds. Is always learning to be had, and again, you can also learn through experiences as well too. So I just try to educate myself as much as I possibly can based on things that I have an interest in.
There have been a few viewer questions coming in as well. There's one gentleman called Darsh who's been insistently asking you about the England tour and the status of that. Do you have any clarity on that, Jason, at the moment?
Well, at the moment, all I can say is that there have been preliminary discussions around a possible tour and what it may look like.
Right.
To the levels of that discussion, I can't disclose. But I'm sure that if cricket is to resume, that any governing body would make sure or ensure that the safety of everyone, is well looked after. I don't think we would ever be looking to put cricket on if we know it wasn't safe. So all I would say at this present time is that if there is a likely possibility of cricket being played, that it will be played under the constraints of safety, being the number one priority, and then making sure that obviously we can roll out a safe platform to getting cricket back up and running in the world.
Right. Just to roll back the years a little bit, in January 2019, I mean, just rolling it back by a year, in fact, you became the first West Indies all-rounder since Sir Garfield Sobers to be ranked the number one Test all-rounder. Is that the achievement that you cherish the most in all of your cricketing career?
Honestly, I mean, being quote-unquote dubbed as the best all-rounder in world cricket, for me, means nothing.
Right.
I mean, you can use a small example. I've seen so many, during this lockdown and COVID-19, I've seen so many things published by Cricinfo, ICC, around probable current best teams or best 11s, and a lot of the time you don't see people who are actually are ranked highly in the ICC ranking. So it then makes me wonder if being the number one ranked all-rounder, being the number one ranked fast bowler, being the number one ranked Test batsman means anything.
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, for me, it's a difference if I'm the number one team in the world. Then I feel as though I can maybe justify that. But I mean, again, number one team ranked based on what? Is it just the ICC's ranking system? Is it through votes? I don't know, but I guess for me personally, I would just love to see West Indies cricket back at the top, and us winning a lot more Test matches, winning a lot more Test series, winning a World Cup, a one-day World Cup. We've won T20 World Cups before, but just to see the overall success of West Indies cricket, that's all I would see. I don't get caught up with these rankings and like player rankings per se, because I don't feel they hold much weight, to be honest.
Right. But this particular honor was bestowed upon you just after the double century that you scored at the Kensington Oval. What are your memories of that particular knock? Because coming as it did on your home ground, do you still hark back to that knock from time to time?
Not really, to be honest. I've had a chance to see it again during this lockdown, as there was a recap of it. But look, I don't really go back to it that often.
Right.
It was one of the best days of my life, in all honesty. It was my first century at home.
Right.
I've always envisioned myself running a century in front of my home crowd. And I had a few half centuries before that. And I was just wondering, when I scored that first time, because I knew it'd get one, but I just wondered when it would be. And to score it in front of your home country, on a big stage against England, who is arguably our biggest test series, and then to transfer 100 into a double 100. I don't think there are words for me that I could explain it, but it was just one of the best days of my life, and a day that I would always cherish, and a test match that I would definitely always remember.
Right, and another red letter day for West Indies cricket was in England in 2017 when Shai Hope and Craig Brathwaite helped West Indies chase down 300 in a memorable victory. And at the post-match presentation, you said something interesting, that you sent out a text to all the boys on the last morning asking them to believe in themselves. Was that a Winston Churchill-like a text address that was sent? What were the contents exactly?
I can't remember the text. I do remember sending out the text, but sometimes you just need to reassure people of how good they are and why they're here and that they belong here. And it was just one of those games where I felt we really fought hard. Even in the first test match, we were outplayed. I felt we really fought hard. We really gave a big effort. And we were always in that second test match, But, Stokes got 100 in the first or second innings, I can't remember. But he got 100 where we put him down. And it could have hurt us, He played well, but it could have that could have really hurt us a little bit more. But our bowlers really fought. Batters played outstandingly well in that game, and it was a collective effort, man. I just think on our morning we knew what was at stake, and it was only one thing to do. We had one goal, and that was just to chase them down. We didn't feel as though a draw was possible. It would have been a result. So for me, I was just telling you guys, look, let me just look to believe it, man. Speak it into being, and try to live it, visualize it, and let's go there and do it.
And also, as far as the CPL is concerned, you won the CPL with the Barbados Tridents. You bet the favourites, of course, the TKR side. And there is, of course, a lot of chatter from the CPL administrators about the Caribbean Premier League happening this season. What are your thoughts about the tournament taking place realistically?
Look, again, I go back to the comment I made around the England series. I think it's all the same. For cricket to play again, under the constraints of COVID-19, which we just got to be very, very mindful of safety. I think safety must come first, and we must ensure that our players aren't exposed to this, and we've got to do everything in the power to make sure that whatever environment is created, that is safe. So if we can have a safe environment, I don't see why CPL wouldn't play. We're all very hopeful that it goes on because it's a wonderful tournament. But we do understand where the world is at present. We've got to cope with this deadly virus, and just to ensure that we cut the widespread of it. It's done a hell of a lot of damage so far, but I think it's incumbent on us as people to make sure it doesn't spread anymore and that we can get it under control.
There's a lot of mixed reactions about the possibility of playing in front of empty stands in empty stadiums. We did get a glimpse of what that could possibly mean in the post-COVID era with the Bundesliga game last night. But what are your thoughts on it, Jason? Would you be open to playing in front of empty stadiums? Should that be the only possible way to get cricket restarted?
Look, if you sit back and wait for this thing to boil over completely, it could be years before we get back to that point. I think if that's what it comes to, we're just going to have to deal with it. Ideally, it's not what we would all like. I'm sure us as we as players would love fans in the crowds because it gives us that added impetus. It gives us that added drive. And fans who adore cricket would just get an option to come and see their stars live. But I just think of it as a normal job, Everybody else in the workforce has got to go back out, go back out to work. Obviously adjusting their way of normalcy and just becoming familiar with this new norm. And it's just like us as cricketers, if this is going to be part and parcel of it, then we've just got to accept it we've got to get on with it, because there's no timeline in terms of when this virus will go away, if it will ever go away, so it's just so much uncertainty at this part of the time. But I think the relevant cricket bodies have been doing a fantastic job in just even open up discussions around how best to resume cricket. And I'm sure that we would all come to a common ground as to how cricket could be played, and we get back to at least seeing some cricket on TV, and then hopefully and not too far in the future that we could see cricket live.
Jofra Archer was clearly the one that got away from the West Indies after having spent some of his formative years, of course, over there. When Jofra is, of course, back home in Bridgetown or anywhere in Barbados for the carnival, have you guys ever bumped into each other? Do you, what kind of relationship do you share?
Yeah, I'm not that close to Jofra.
Right.
I guess we would have gone, or we would have had interaction through cricket. He's a bit younger than me, and he played for Barbados before, but I've never played cricket with him. So I've not had the opportunity to share dressing with him, but he's a wonderful talent, I've obviously heard of him before he went over to England to play. I've seen him play cricket as well too. I think I would have played one game against him, which is a parish tournament we had at the UWI. But again, I don't have that close relationship with Jofra. But yeah, it's just sad to see a talent such as that, leave our shores and go and play straight somewhere else, But again, it's just the circumstances of the reality. It is what it is. I would not sit here and spend time dwelling over it. For me, it makes no sense. I've just got bigger problems to deal with, and for me, I've got no control over the Jofra situation, so I wouldn't even sit down and worry or discuss it.
For a number of years now, one of the worries about the decline in West Indies cricket, so to say, has been about the talent drain, about people in the Caribbean, youngsters in the Caribbean opting for basketball and athletics over cricket. How would Jason Holder go about arresting that kind of a problem?
Look, I've heard this on numerous occasions, but I don't see it. Cricket is still arguably one of the biggest sports, if not the biggest sport in the Caribbean. And there's still a lot of people who have a keen interest in playing cricket. I just think now with technology and other sports being gifted the opportunity here in the Caribbean, then people are actually open to more opportunities. But it's not to say that I think cricket is dying or people have lost interest in cricket. I feel the total opposite about that. But they do have more options. There's lots of other sports now which are played at school level, which governments and regions have invested in. So people have more opportunities to open up their sites to other sports. But I still think cricket is probably the number one sport in Caribbean.
Right. Also, Phil Simmons is someone that you won the CPL title under, and he's now come back as the West Indies coach, and you guys did well in India. How would you rate Phil as a manager and a coach?
I think Phil is an excellent manager. He's just got that demeanor to possess respect, and he gives it. Anybody who gives respect wouldn't find it hard to get respect back. I think he's had lots of success through his management skills and just implementing good structures in the team environment. Phil is obviously one of the easiest people I've found to work with, and we have a really good relationship. So yeah, I've got a lot of respect for Phil Simmons, and I think he's done a hell of a job so far in his coaching tenure as West Indies coach. But you've seen his results wherever he goes. He wins titles, and he's got the backing of a lot of the players as well.
Well, there's a gentleman that you were speaking about just a little while ago, Vijay Shankar, who just popped up to say hi to you.
What's up, Vijay, man? Hope you're well. Hope your family is well as well.
Yeah, we had a chat with Vijay the other day as well. He was our guest on one of these shows. And of course, he's always had the nicest things to say about you. But just moving on from Vijay, and just speaking a little bit about being one of the boys after being a captain for a really long time. How does that weigh in for you? Because you're used to a certain kind of lifestyle as the team's leader, but to now come back and be a part of the rank and file, how does that sit with you?
Yeah, it's been a difficult transition. One I'm still trying to find ways to cope with, and no doubt I would find a way to deal with it, man. It's nothing beyond me. I have just played cricket as a player before, and yeah, just for me, I just think it's important that I give as much support to the current leader as possible, and we just all on the same page moving forward, moving West Indies cricket forward. But yeah, it has been an interesting transition to say the least.
Right, just a few quick, quirky questions of sorts before we let you go. So you always have this image of being the soft-spoken, ultra-nice cricketer on the park, but has there ever been a moment on the field where you've completely lost it and, had a real go at someone?
On the field, no. Dressing room, maybe. I may have had a few run-ins with people. I mean, I've had tons of differences with players, man. I just think that it wouldn't be the right. It wouldn't be right not to have run-ins with people. I think once two people care about something or have an opinion on something, then you have difference in opinion at some stage. And that's just part of professional sport, and that's just part of life. So yeah, I've had tons of run-ins with players on and off the field. Well, not early on. I would say more so off the field. But yeah, it's never stopped us from going about our business, man. To be honest, our common goal is to win cricket games, and that's what we strive to do.
What's the cleverest piece of sledge that you've dished out?
Sledge.
Yeah.
It's not something that I would want to mention here.
So not so clever after all.
No, it was clever for me because I got my message across.
Okay.
I wasn't really concerned about how to bring it across. It was just getting the message across. But no, man, I am not one of those people who go on a cricket field to keep my mouth shut. But I'm not one of those people who go on a cricket field to attack people verbally. But I do believe there's a place in cricket for it. You've got to play cricket hard, man. You've got to play cricket tough. I believe you should be able to be at a battle, be at war on the cricket field. When you come off the field, you can have a beer, you can have a drink, you can have a chat, and that's when your social begins. But on the cricket field, it should be played tough, man. I am a big advocate for sledging. Yeah. I believe it has a place in the game. Obviously, you don't take it overboard, but in the heat of the battle, you never know. These things can happen. But the most important thing is when you leave the cricket field, you shake hands, and you have a relationship. And to me, some of the best relationships are built through sledging.
Wow. Okay.
There are times where in the heat of the battle, you say and do things that you just necessarily don't mean, but through emotion and then being in the heat of the battle, it just gets the better of you at that particular time. But then you come off the field, sit back and say, "Oh shoot, I really probably shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that." And then you probably go and you open up discussion. Then you get to really understand the individual for who they are, and that's me how a lot of relationships are built. I built a lot of relationships like that, particularly here in Barbados. And there's always a lot of sledging in cricket here in the Caribbean. But I am not one to back them from it. I think that's just the way it's supposed to be. I just won't sit back and allow you to verbally abuse me. I would definitely go back at you, and I would see the true person in who I'm talking to or dealing with, I guess, after the cricket game, where I would go and try to open up a discussion with you.
Right, and what's your favorite ground in the world? That's a question that Lakesh has been asking.
Favorite ground in the world? I've got a soft spot for Perth, which is the old Wacker ground. And that's because I made my international debut there. But it's hard to say. I've done well at Kensington Oval, and that's home, so that definitely stands out. And I've also done really well at Sabina Park in Jamaica. So I would say those are my three favorite grounds in the world. But there are a lot of grounds where you get to, you're just in awe by but the ambience and just the whole atmosphere. You know, and some of them would be grounds like Lords, the Oval in England, Cape Town, the Newlands in Cape Town, Melbourne. I played a Boxing Day test match in Melbourne. That was an awesome feeling as well. You know, and these are just a few to name. Even playing in India at the Wankhede for me is the pinnacle. I had the opportunity to be at the Wankhede for Sachin Tendulkar's last test match.
Jason, just with the whole, sorry to just cut you in, with the whole Insta Live feature, it just conks off after an hour. So do you mind if I jump out and go live again?